Welcome to the Strategic Growth Experts Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Taracco. I'm a business consultant, digital marketing expert, and real estate investor. And this podcast is meant to inspire you, educate you, and help you access your highest potential. Subscribe to the Strategic Growth Experts Podcast on iTunes. Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, and check out the website at strategicgrowthexperts.com.
Thanks for joining the Strategic Growth Experts Podcast. I'm here with Vinh Giang, a speaker, entrepreneur, and magician. Vinh, how are you today?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Excellent. So I've seen a lot of your work. You do a lot of traveling and a lot of speaking, and I just recently found out that you're also a magician. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got started in speaking and traveling, and kind of what you do and what you're all about?
Okay, sure. I guess I will start right in the beginning. I'm a Vietnamese refugee, son of a Vietnamese refugee family, and born in Australia, South Australia. And, all my life, I've never really fit the educational system. And I've always been very entrepreneurial since a young age. I was like selling MP3 players to friends in year 8. Buying them off eBay and then selling them for double the price to my friends and putting them on payment plans. And when they didn't pay, then I'll give the bully some money to beat them up. And it was a horrible thing because I changed schools 4 times, And as a result, somehow, if we snapshot through my life, I somehow then end up in university studying commerce and law, of course, fulfilling the Asian prophecy, either an accountant, lawyer, or a doctor. And 4.5 years into a 5-year degree, I quit my degree to build an online business teaching magic tricks. And that business was called Encyclopedia of Magic. And, I've never lost so much money so quickly before in my life. We lost so much money so quickly. And I got two of my best friends to sell their investment properties so that they would invest in my online magic business. And they did do this. And as a result of that, the online business became successful. So we now have over 55,000 students. We've merged with an online magic school called 52 Cards, spelt with a K. And now we bring our student base up to just over 400,000 students. So that's the online magic business side of me. The magician side of me is I used to spend a lot of time traveling around Australia performing as a professional magician. I've recently discovered my true calling in life, and it's combining the speaking and the magic and the entrepreneurial knowledge that I've been able to gain on my journey. So as a speaker, I use magic as my metaphor, and because I do something that's quite unique, Brandon, I've now traveled the world doing this. So I do about 150 conferences a year. I travel between the States, Asia, and all over Australia. So unfortunately, spend a lot of my time sleeping on a plane and living in hotels, which is rather bland and boring.
The interesting part, though, is doing 150 conferences a year. That part, I assume, is very rewarding. And my question to you is, how have you gotten to the point where you're booking 150 engagements every year?
This really comes down to a quote that one of my magician mentors told me very early in my career. That, when sometimes your teachers give you advice and you're like, yeah, that sounds good, but it probably doesn't work. But it actually does, and the advice came down to this. He said, Vin, if you actually are performing real magic, there is no marketing required. You perform one show and everyone's going to want you. And it really boils down to if you become so good at what you do, people actually cannot ignore you. And I think it's a philosophy of really beating on your craft until you are so damn good at it, people cannot ignore you. So when I first started speaking, I can tell you now, my mentor who was mentoring me in the realm of speaking, who has a background in theater, he said to me, Vin, if you really want to become a great speaker, mate, you're going to have to do the groundwork. So I didn't start speaking straight away. I started doing singing classes. So he made me do singing classes, and I did singing classes for over 2 years because I knew that as a speaker, our primary vehicle that we use to deliver our value is our voice. And I realized I never trained my voice before, so I had to do vocal training. I did theater training because, again, there's another great quote that will go back to a magician in the mid-1900s, Robert Houdin. He said that a magician is an actor playing the part of a magician. So as a result of that quote, I went on a whole tangent of doing theater training and learning how to act and everything. And that all built me into the speaker that I am today. So I think there was, 10 years worth of hard work that people didn't see. And that 10 years worth of hard work allowed me now to have such a unique value proposition and to polish what I've done so much so that, every conference I speak at now, Brandon, I tend to get 3 to 5 referrals as a result of speaking at that very conference. So me doing the conference that I do acts actually as my marketing, which goes back to what my mentor originally said: if you perform magic, you don't need to market.
So many great insights there. In order to do something, you just have to practice a little bit every day until you become it. Also, what's interesting is that you went out and did the voice lessons, and you did all these other different types of trainings to improve your delivery on who you are and what you're doing.
And it's one of those things where, again, let's borrow the words of Steve Jobs. We don't see how the dots connect looking forward, but looking back, I can see how every single dot in my life connected. It's interesting. I think a lot of the times in life when we're running a business or whatever we're doing in life, we always want the hack. We always want the shortcut. We always want that. Let's focus on business. We always want to focus on that brilliant marketing strategy, that gold nugget, that silver bullet that's going to make our business phenomenal. And we focus so much on that, we don't focus on making the business phenomenal, making the customer experience phenomenal. So I think something to take from, for all your listeners, Brandon, is that, just to share with your perspective from magicians. Magicians only have one gear. We either amaze you or you think we're cheesy and crap, right? So we don't have satisfy. We can't satisfy an audience. Magicians have to amaze an audience. So I really like that philosophy in life because it's either magic or it's not. Whereas I think a lot of the times in business, we give ourselves the wiggle room, being in the middle, playing in that middle space of satisfaction. And that's not where I play. I can't live there. There is nothing worse than a shit magic trick. Absolutely nothing worse. Yeah, and it's one of those things where, I really share that philosophy with people who are in business because it's my compass. It guides me when I'm creating something for my audience, when I'm delivering something to my audience. I think to myself, my audience only deserves to be amazed, nothing less. And it's become a benchmark for me in life and in business. So I really do hope that little philosophy there adds value.
I've seen some of your other videos. You kind of strike me as you're like the inspirational magician, because some of your videos are very interesting. You have a very inspirational, creative personality. So as you say, your job to amaze the audience. Give us a little taste of your magic.
Look, if we take it high level first, and we'll bring it to the pragmatic level if we want to. But on a high level, I really believe in standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay, so when I remember speaking for a Fortune 500 company in the States, and one of the questions I got was, Vin, you're 29. How do you have the audacity to address a business audience? I'm in my 60s. And I want to ask you this question. And it was really like a kick in the nuts question because there was like 2,500 people in the audience. And I paused for a very long and awkward amount of time, which caused a lot of people a lot of discomfort, including myself. But it just gave me time to think. And my reply was that, my friend, I stand up here on stage knowing that there's nothing amazing about me. But the thing is, my dad, when I was young, told me one thing that sticks with me now, and I'll reply you with this, and it's that every single book I read, that author now stands behind me in my army, willing to fight for any cause that I desire. So, my friends, I've read over 500 books in my life, and I read religiously. And behind me on stage today are 500 amazing authors. So when I speak today, it's not Vin speaking to you, sharing and departing and dispensing his wisdom. No, it's 500 amazing people standing behind me, reinforcing my values and beliefs. And also, I'm just the vehicle that delivers their message, because I've come up with nothing unique. I've come up with nothing myself. I'm writing a book, Brandon, and the book title I'm going with is The Most Fraudulent Book Ever Written. And the reason I use that as a title is because everything I learn is from other people. So first of all, I just wanted to frame it by saying that the magic or the thing that I do, I believe you have to do three things when you're on stage. First is to educate. And when I educate, I'm the vehicle that is delivering the messages of such amazing people that I've learned from. So first you've got to educate. Then second, you have to entertain. Okay? You have to entertain your audience. You have to make learning fun. I fundamentally believe that even if you're a 70-year-old person, you will still appreciate learning in a fun way. And then the last, I guess, formula for delivery to make it really engaging, whether it's on video or on stage, is you have to inspire. So you've got to entertain, you've got to educate, and you've got to inspire. And if you do these three things, you will succeed. You will succeed. So those are the three, yeah. I'll just quickly put an asterisk there as well. That's from Steve Jobs and something he does every time he goes on stage.
As you said, you read 500 books. And typically when someone writes a book, they're condensing 10, 20 years of knowledge and experience into a very short vehicle that you're absorbing. So when you say you've read 500 books, you could consequently say that you have over 5,000 years of experiential knowledge that you've absorbed.
I love that. Let's go deeper with that, Brandon, for a second, right? Because, the reason why most people fail, and again, my old man told me this, my dad told me this, he goes, son, the reason you lost the $500,000 into the online business, the reason you're failing is because look behind you. You have 20 soldiers. You've only consumed 20 books in your life, and you're going into a battle that requires 500 soldiers to win. This is why you fail. This is why you suck right now. So acquire your army, build your army, then go out there and pick battles you can win. That is the fundamental reason, Brandon, and I really want to push this home, and it's why people don't win. It's why people don't succeed at their passion. It's why people don't succeed at their hobby. It's why people don't build successful businesses. And it's that we tend to become so egotistical and think that we have the knowledge required to win. And we just don't. We must stand on the shoulders of giants. We must stand on the shoulders of giants, build the army, acquire the knowledge, and get the support. And then you'll find you have this incredible level of confidence. Because people often ask, how do you become so confident? How are you confident? I'm confident because Einstein's one of my greatest soldiers, one of the best thinkers, one of the people who drops the biggest wisdom bombs on me. And when you have that many people stand behind you, you can't help but be confident.
Vin, I think that is the most fundamental and life-changing perspective that you have there.
Wow, thank you. I'm going to have to wear a neck brace after you said that comment. My head's exploded.
That's absolutely true. I think, and the other thing I wanted to ask is, what are some of the most impactful and fundamental readings that you have read and that you would suggest other people to read?
I'm going to say this. I'm going to frame it with this, and then I'll tell you what I think. The first thing is that for every single person out there, they will need different soldiers to fight their battles, because we're all fighting different battles. We're all going into a different war, right? And I think it's so important to acknowledge that. And I don't want to take away from people the joy of discovering amazing books and amazing soldiers that will fight for your cause. But I will tell you the one that was most life-changing for me, because, mate, there is so much joy in discovering an amazing book that you feel that it was written for you, right? But out of all the books I've read, one highly specifically trained soldier that could potentially help you defeat a war with one bullet. Let's take it that far, right? That is a bold statement, but it's one I'll stand by. And it's a book by Napoleon Hill called 16 Laws of Success. Now, there's been, there's the Think and Grow Rich version, and that go back to the original, the 16 Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. Read that book, consume that book, and read it again and again and again. I've read that book easily 10 times. That book teaches you the 16 laws that is so fundamental. And if you just have maybe 10 soldiers in your army, add this one, and now you can go into some pretty big battles with this guy, right, or this girl. I'm telling you, that book, mate, it's every time I'm going to have to give you another one. I'm sorry. It would be highly offensive if I didn't give you the second one. The second one is It's by Robert Greene, Greene with an E, and it's called 48 Laws of Power. And I will frame this book as well. The first time you read this, you'll think, oh my God, this book is evil. It's teaching me how to become really, really evil. But just keep reading, because one line from the book, it's not that we're learning it to be evil, but the author said that to discover the limits of kindness, hold a bee in your hand, squeeze your hand, hold the bee in your hand, in your fist, and then you find out the limitations of kindness. Now, we're learning all these strategies of war, because that's what you're studying in that book, 48 Laws of Power. That we're studying those things and those techniques, not to use them, but to be aware of them so that we don't let evil people use them on us. Good people
Absolutely.
every day are out there getting taken advantage of, getting hurt. Well, it's our fault, because we have to go out and learn and get the soldiers to defend ourselves with.
It's incredible. It makes me think of, I think another fundamental read is The Art of War, which is a historical.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Yep.
but it's interesting. So when you say the 48 Laws of Power, I can imagine, based on what you're sharing, the perspective that the author is coming from. And going back to Napoleon Hill, I love the fact that I think Napoleon Hill, if you go back to kind of an industrial boom in personal development, which I think was started by Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale. I think, between them, they really blew the doors wide open and started sharing things in a new way that opened people up to things. And I reread Outwitting the Devil a number of times. So Napoleon Hill, I think it's fundamental. Most people have read Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill has a lot of impactful work. And so I think knowledge is the fundamental key. And so books, as you said, that is your credibility, which I love.
Yeah, and I don't have a university degree to my name. I didn't build a multi-billion-dollar business, but what I do have is I have a mindset, and I have support from the most incredible group of authors that so many of them have passed on. But you know what? I felt like I've lived right beside them. I felt like I was right there with Thomas Edison as he was going through all his failures, and he was just turning around to me saying, Vin, you see, this is why you have to keep pushing. Vin, this is why you have to keep going. And we're always looking for the shortcut. We're always looking for the easy, hey, I want that mentor to be right here sitting with me, telling me to keep going. No, you can't sit there and wait for people to come to you. You've got to go find them and bring them to you. And in the technological age we live in today, we just want to listen to the video. We just want to listen to the audio. My friend, the real strong, epic soldiers of the past are the ones you want on your team, not the ones that are just writing a book for money, for a profit, who barely spent any time really dissecting what the content they're actually sharing is all about. I think it's about going to the past. Go back to the past where there's amazing depth, like Earl Nightingale, like you said, immense depth and beautiful language as well. I think we've forgotten how beautiful the English language can be. And I think when you read those earlier books, I just have this deep appreciation for how beautiful language used to be. So I think that you'll discover a lot of exciting things going back.
Yeah, you really touched on one of the key points that had me create this podcast to begin with, which is that there's so many incredible people out there with, and everyone has such a unique value proposition that they bring to the world, and something unique that they can contribute. And I really created this podcast to be a platform for people to really share who they are, that have the real inspiration. They have the real passion. They're really passionate about knowledge. It's really a knowledge share, kind of like a knowledge sharing society, where you have some of the brightest minds on the planet who are accomplishing some of the most incredible things, where people can come together and share this knowledge. So exponentially, you're bringing 500, or what do we say, an equivalent of 5,000 years of knowledge to the table. Someone else might be bringing another 2,000 years of knowledge to the table. It grows exponentially, and as people listen, they can find their way. It's just a way to facilitate people's path to freedom.
Absolutely, Brandon. And on behalf of all your listeners as well, thank you. Thank you for starting this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking time out of your life to do this, to empower others. I think the world needs more people like yourself, mate. And And on that as well, I want to say to you that please, all the listeners, as you listen to all these amazing people, what I want people to realize is that the only thing that makes people amazing is the lessons that they've learned and the experiences that they've gone through in their life. And there's three types of people in the world. Les Brown says this, and I love it. And he says there are winners, there are losers, and then there are just people who haven't discovered how to win yet. And I think that's the key. And it's your responsibility. It's on you. And I think by reading, that's how you discover how to win. I like to see it as when people run out of inspiration, it's like a candle that's lost its flame. And it's podcasts like this that help people reignite that flame.
I appreciate that insight, definitely, very much.
Yeah, look, I think it's something that people have to remember to appreciate things like this. They're so rare. But, we've got less than 18,000 days left to live if we're lucky enough to not get hit by a bus and live to 87. So for you to take time out of your day, I'm grateful, and I know that all your listeners are very grateful.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. That's a powerful perspective. And there may be people who are winning, but maybe you need to win more. Or maybe there's certain areas where you're not winning. And it was really about is because you can't always win all the time for the rest of forever. Even professional athletes make mistakes. Even people who are highly trained and highly educated, at some point they make some sort of mistake. You can't expect yourself to be perfect all the time. And so the knowledge that comes out from reading and from listening to people who have this type of knowledge is that you can win more, you can strategize a little bit better, and that's really the point of strategic growth experts, is help people strategize how to grow a little bit at a time. You may be a winner, but you may need to win a little bit more. You may need to get just that little extra push, and that's really where discovering how to win comes into play. Sometimes you need to discover how to win a little bit more, and that's where you have people who are going out and sharing themselves and sharing their experiences that makes them amazing, because not everybody has that type of experience, and not everybody can share something of such substance and value. And that's where the excellence comes in who we're being out in the world.
You struck a chord with me as you were just talking as well. I think there's an area of success that we don't talk about enough. I like to always think that a coin can fall three different ways. It can fall on the heads or the tails, or it can fall on the edge. Right, so it's you can fall standing, and I think when you read a lot, you begin to understand that it's not only black and white that you want to look at. Sometimes you want to stand on the edge of the coin and look at both sides, right, and really get a strong depth of it. And success, we always seem to look at the positive side of success, but I just want to take you there just for because I'm intrigued by this, because I've just been through it. There is actually a negative side to success, believe it or not. A lot of people don't realize what success means, the darkest side of success means. And let's just go there for a second, because it's like looking at the sun. You don't want to look at it too long, it blinds you. But when you look at the darker side of success actually means more sacrifice. So the more successful you want to become in your life, the more sacrifices you have to make. Now, I believe, for me, I've gotten to a certain point where the sacrifices I was starting to make in my life started to make me extremely unhappy, because I started sacrificing time from my family. I started sacrificing time with my wife, started sacrificing way too much time with my friends. And, I think the entrepreneurial culture we live in now is a little bit dangerous. We've got to be careful, because there's such a strong culture in work, the hustle, 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day. Look, I can relate to that. There are times in your life when you have to do that. But if you do that your whole life, then what's going to happen is you're just going to get to the end of your life just to realize you never lived. So just be careful of that, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs, I meet a lot of people who are depressed, who are severely depressed because they believe they have to win all the time. They believe they have to work, just an exorbitant amount of hours in the day. No, you just have to find what's right for you. I think I encourage everyone, as we listen to experts, just remember that you're also very smart, and you also have to work out what's right for you. Don't just blindly follow people, but like my dad always says, take the good and leave the bad. because the danger of admiration is that it leads to complete emulation. And that's dangerous because I fell down that path. I was so inspired by a couple of people that I tried to be them and emulate them in every single way, which then actually caused me a lot of unhappiness, Brandon. So what I do now is I do my due diligence, and when I like someone and I admire them, I know the natural thing to happen is emulation. So then I go pros and cons list. What do I like from them? What I don't like from them? Take the good, leave the bad, and do you, and work out what's best for you, and you just do that. You know, because I started to feel bad. I started to feel bad that I wanted to build more of a lifestyle business. I go, oh no, but I should do this and I should do that. But I go, you know what? No, I'm just going to do Vinh Giang. I'm going to do what's right for me and my family and for my life. I want to be able to take a week off and go see my cousins in New Zealand, Queenstown, go snowboarding and fall 100 times. It's actually really hard to snowboard. But I want to do that. Whereas my old self would have said, no, Vin, you've got to work. You've got to make more money. You've got to make more money. No, there's so much more to life than money. Jim Carrey says it. I wish everybody could be successful just to realize, I wish everybody could have millions of dollars just to realize it's not about money.
Not the answer.
You know, it's not the, well, you know, it's part of the answer, you know, and it's funny because, you know, money doesn't make you happy, but, you know, everybody in the world, we want to find out for ourselves, don't we?
It's really interesting. I think, you know, and Ty Lopez, his platform is, you know, the path to the good life, the health, wealth, and happiness. You know, wealth being a part of the puzzle, but not entirely. And I think it's DeMartini who has the seven areas of life, which is, you know, health, wealth, happiness, vocation, career, family. You know, yeah, there's really multiple facets of life that success is revolving around. And though everyone at the end of the day equates it to money, really money or equity, I would say, is not the answer. It's really more about cash flow. It's more about, do you have the lifestyle where you can do what you want when you want without having to worry about whether or not income is coming in. And that's, I think there's a fundamental disconnect between, well, if I'm a billionaire, I don't have to work. And that's probably not true because a lot of billionaires probably work more than most millionaires, and they probably work a lot harder than 90% of people on the planet. I mean, most of them are working their butts off all the time. And they have plenty of money, absolutely, but do they have a lifestyle that equates to being successful in the seven areas of life? No, I would say most of the time they're successful in the financial areas, and then they're lacking in all the other areas. And there's so that's always an important topic, and I love talking about that because I feel, in my perspective, I feel that health is one of the most vital aspects, because you could have anything in the world, but if you don't have your health and vitality, you really, you know, your money's not going to do anything, right? Like you can maybe buy a heart transplant, but you know, you're probably not going to have health, wellness, vitality, right?
You're exactly right. Look at Steve Jobs, one of the richest men in the world. Money didn't save him from cancer.
Right.
You know, it's just one of those things to realize that everything we have in life is for rent. Even if you own your property, it's for rent. You can't take it with you. Like everything we own in our life, that beautiful dress you have in the wardrobe, the amazing car that you have in the garage, it's not yours. I don't care if you own it outright and you pay it, it's not yours. Once you die, you give it back.
Glad you brought that up, because there's a quote from the Hopi elders which says how we're borrowing the earth from future generations. Yeah. And most people aren't living that. You know, we may not have the type of environmental freedom that exists, you know, because of industry and things that the carelessness, which is why we should take care of it.
Absolutely. No, and I completely agree, and I think we're doing a really bad job of that. But I mean, you know, I always like to just touch on the personal level. You know, I think it's important. We place far too much significance on owning things, and I think it's just to remember, and every now and then just to remember that we don't truly own anything. We're here in life to experience. We plan our businesses, we plan all these things, and unfortunately, life is the thing that happens in between. You know, and I think don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. Experience life. Life is amazing. For you to exist, it's bloody ridiculous that you exist. You know, the best magic trick that ever happened in the world is bloody your existence. You know, you shouldn't even be here. you shouldn't even be here. Like my dad used to always say, son, it's taken millions of years of serendipitous events for you to exist. Don't even talk about how dangerous the war was. Think of 50,000 generations before, if a caveman eats a poisonous fruit and died, that's our entire bloodline eliminated from this earth. And so his whole philosophy of it's taken millions of years of serendipitous events to occur for you to then exist for a mere 87 years on average. You compare the two, you're alive for a minute and you've lived 30 seconds. What will you do with the 30 seconds that you have left? Live.
Yeah. I want to inspire people. That's, it's really about inspiring people. I think the core of inspiration that I've always found, like the most inspiring stories and things that I've found have always revolved around the mystery of life, like the mystery of why we're here or how we're here or what is the probability of us actually existing and being here in the vastness of the universe. Well, it's minuscule, right? It's a complete miracle. And I think we run around in life and we forget that, but every time you remember it, it opens up this world of possibility where anything can happen and you can become anybody and do anything. And that's really the key of being great. And the second thing that comes out of that is after health and wellness, I think is relationships and people. And everyone gets so wrapped up in their lives and so busy with doing nothing that they're not accomplishing things and they're really not connecting with people. Because at the end of the day, we have to share the planet with 7 billion people. And how are we doing it? I'd say we're doing a horrible job at sharing it, don't you think? So take those two things, the mystery of life to inspire people. Can you inspire 7 billion people to live life in a way where we all get along and have relationships and create something amazing with this small amount of time that we have here? I think that's really my purpose, and I think that's really what inspires people to take action in their lives. And it's not conventional. It's not conventional wisdom.
Yeah, it's just not. Like let's dive just another 5 centimeters deeper with what you're saying about relationships. When we're with our friends, when we're with people that we love, don't just ask the standard question of how was your day, right? Let's go deeper with these relationships to get more fulfillment out of them. Ask them something in their life. Ask them, hey, what's something you've done new recently? What's a new experience you've done? What's something you've experienced you never experienced before? What's most important to you in your life? Tell me, what was your childhood dream? What I love asking people is, if a fortune teller was real, what would you ask the fortune teller? Let's add some depth to our relationships, How do you show love to other people? How do you show love to yourself? Like, what does success look like to you? Ask people these questions. Ask people the big questions of how they're going to make a difference in the world. And that's how you spark stronger and better relationships. And as a result of that, when you get engaged in those deep conversations, like we're having now, Brandon, like this is just like, hashtag bromance that's happening right now. Like this is substance. This is substance. This is life. I hear your passion. I hope you can hear mine. 2 people from across the globe connecting on a deeper level. This is what life is about. And we're around the best people in our lives, our family, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our best friends. We ask them the questions of just, what did you have for lunch? Like, it's not because we don't want to have these conversations. It's because we don't know what to ask. And I think just sit down, write a good list of some good juicy questions and ask away and have some of these deeper level conversations. It will bring you so much happiness.
I think it stems from the default way that relationships happen in people's lives. You get wrapped up in the mundane. And I mean, we've never met each other before, but I have a platform for people who I think are contributing to the world and doing great things to come on and share themselves. And it always expands into something greater because there's, you get people who are inspirational, who inspire other people in the same room, and all of a sudden you can change the world because you have there's so much power in these new ways of thinking that, and let's be honest, the world needs new solutions. There's all sorts of things happening in the world. You need new solutions. And when people are thinking about money, how do I make $1 billion? Well, if you want to make $1 billion, you have to serve 1 billion people. So how are you going to do that? And what is your vehicle for doing that? And I think inspiration is extremely valuable. I think you can't put a dollar amount on it. So, and I think that's probably one of the reasons I would say you're doing well. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of motivational speakers who do well, because you really can't put a price on inspiration. And it really does create new opportunities in ways that people can't necessarily fathom or put a dollar amount to.
Yeah, look, and I agree with you. And I love your philosophy. You know, it's one I've only learned recently as well, is that to make more money, to succeed, serve more. And you know, being an Australian, I have to say something I adore about, you know, Americans and the United States is that you use the word serve. We don't really use that word in Australia, you know, and for my visits to the States, and I'm trying to move to the States, so hopefully you guys will adopt me. But you use the word serve all the time, and I love that word. Like, I love that word so much. I've never used it in my vocab my entire life until I started going to the States. Well, people, you know, I see people thanking soldiers in the airport, thank you for your service. And I just think that is the most heartwarming thing I've ever seen in my life. But I see soldiers in Australia, I don't even say that, but I say that now. And then when I say it over here in Australia, they go, okay. They're chuffed. They can't believe it. And I think that's the secret right there. Like, if there was any secret, it's, if you want to, like you said, if you want to make $1 billion, serve 1 billion people.
You're absolutely right. And I think when you get up on stage and you educate, entertain, and inspire people, that's a service that these people are not getting anywhere else in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for doing that. You know, I'm sure all these people thank you for it as well. And I thank you for being of service. And you showed up here in this conversation. You gave me an hour of your time, and you're serving everyone who's listening. And so thank you for that.
You know, if I can leave everyone with a quote, and please, my friends, please remember this, and, you know, etch this into your heart and souls. And it's that when you eat the fruit, please remember all those who helped you plant the tree.
Vinh Giang, everybody.
Yeah.
Vinh, how can our people follow you and find you?
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm on the social media platforms. If you just jump on facebook.com/askvinh, so VINH, you'll find me, you know, and as a speaker, I feel it's my duty because, you know, I travel the world and I get to share the stage with amazing people, learn from amazing people. And the more I learn, the more I feel the urge and the responsibility to share. So I put out videos every week of the new lessons that I learn. I don't monetize it. You know, I spend thousands of dollars marketing every week because I want to push out my content to find people that need it. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it for the ROI. I don't have a book. I don't have an online course to sell you. I don't. Like, I do this because I feel it in my heart and my soul. And, you know, and if you join me, I can't wait to learn from you too, because you know what? I don't believe I know everything, and I can't wait to learn from your amazing listeners and from yourself too, Brandon. I've learned so much today, so thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing with me too. And we have very similar values and purposes, and I think when people with similar beliefs come together, something special happens, man.
Absolutely. Vinh, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to the Strategic Growth Experts podcast. Subscribe, find us on Facebook and Twitter, and check out the website at strategicgrowthexperts.com.